Hello, and welcome to Cooking with Miss Michelle. Today we're going to make homemade cranberry sauce. So this is a cooking club favorite, and it's so much better than the canned stuff that you can buy at the store. And the nice thing is you can add different ingredients if you want, or you can just make it plain with cranberries and sugar. And if you want to add some oranges, you can use the peel or the juice, or you can just use pre-made orange juice. And then if you want to add any spices, you could do a little cinnamon, ginger. We've also done nutmeg and cloves. And then you're going to need some jars to put it in. So if you're just going to refrigerate it, you can reuse any jars or containers. And if you want to can it, you'll need some canning jars with some fresh lids and a pot to boil them in. So I'm heating up mine now because they take a long time to boil. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to want 2 pounds of cranberries. So I got these at Costco, and this is exactly a 2-pound bag. You're going to see if there's any squished ones in there. So what I like to do is pour about half my bag into a large strainer, and then I can easily inspect them. I don't know if she's going to like that. So you can see if there's any squished ones in there or any that don't look so good. These look pretty good. So I'm just going to give them a little rinse in some cold water. And then I can put them in my large pot. And then I'll just do the same thing until I have all my cranberries in the large pot. Okay, so I have all my cranberries in here. And I just want to put some water in here. And I want just enough so that I can see it through my cranberries. So they'll be able to boil a little bit in here. So my water level is right about at my cranberry level. And I'm just going to turn my burner on to medium-high, almost high heat. And I'm just going to cook those until they start to pop. And then in the meantime, if I want to add any extra ingredients, like orange peel, I can peel some of these. So I've already washed these really well since I'm going to be using the peel. I definitely want to make sure they're nice and clean. And I just want to grate off a tiny bit. So I just want to get the orange part. I don't want this white part because that is actually bitter. But the very top layer of orange skin holds a lot of orange flavor. So this will actually add a lot of nice flavor to my sauce. Okay, so my cranberries are cooking. I can hear them starting to pop. And I can see their skins are starting to split open. So I want to cook these for about 10 minutes. And that'll give them a chance to really soften up and get all their juice out into my water so it makes a really good flavored sauce. So I can stir these a little bit. I just want to be really careful that it doesn't pop out at me. So if I need to turn it down a little bit, I can, but I can see they're starting to pop and soften up very nicely. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes since I started boiling these. They're cooking. I did have to turn them down a little bit. So I'm actually going to turn my burner off. And I'm just going to mash these with a potato masher to break them up a little bit more. Even though they actually seem pretty soft. I used to use a food mill for this recipe because that's what the recipe called for, but we forgot to use it one time and the sauce was just as good and it was actually a lot less work and cleanup. So now I either just do the potato masher method, or if you like a really thick sauce, you can just leave it really chunky. So now I'm going to add 3 cups of sugar. And then I'm going to stir this in. And then I can turn my burner back on. And I'm going to cook this over medium heat and just let it thicken up. And that sugar is really going to help it thicken up. And then if I want to use any extra ingredients, I can add my orange peel. And I'm actually going to cut my oranges and juice them into there as well. And then if I want to add any cinnamon or ginger or any other spices, now would be the time to do that as well. So about a teaspoon of cinnamon is good. I'm just going to eyeball it, of course. And I want to go really easy on the ginger because it's a very strong flavor. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that. I just want a hint of that flavor. I don't want to overpower my cranberries. And then I'm just going to stir this up. And I'm going to keep a close eye on this. It's going to cook down and it's going to start to splatter. So I want to be very careful. I don't want to get my face too close to this. And if it starts to splatter, I can turn it down a little bit. And I'm just going to cook this until it thickens up to the texture that I like. And then I can put it in my jars. Okay, so I've been cooking my cranberry sauce at medium heat. It's boiling away over here. It's been cooking for about 25 minutes since I mashed it up. And it looks pretty thick. And my canning pot is ready for me. So this will thicken up. When it's hot, it's more liquidy, but it looks like it's a pretty good consistency. So as this cools, it's going to get even more thick. If you want to test this, if you're not sure, what you can do is put a small plate in the freezer. And then you can take a little small spoonful and put it on the frozen plate. And it'll cool it down right away so you can see how thick it is. But I think this will be just perfect. I've made this a lot, so I'm going to go with it. So now I'm ready to put it in my jars. And like I said, you can either, if you don't want to can it, if you're going to use it, it'll last for a while in the fridge. So if you want to just put it in the fridge and be done with it, you can just put it in jars and refrigerate it. I like to seal it, and then I can give it to people like my family and my neighbors, and everyone can have their own little jar. So I like to use a funnel so I don't make a big mess. And I'm just gonna put this in my jars. And I want to leave a little bit of space at the top here. Okay, so once I have my jars filled, I'm going to take either my canning tool, or I can just use a knife or a thin spatula. And I'm going to scrape around the edges to make sure there's no air bubbles trapped in there. And then I'm going to use the measuring part to measure a 1/4 inch of headspace. And if I need to add a little bit or take a little bit out, I can, but I want it to be lined up right at my little tool. looks like I have the perfect amount there. So now I just want to take a wet towel and wipe the top. So I make sure there's no food stuck on this top edge, so I can get a really good seal. Otherwise, if I have sauce on there, it's gonna prevent my lid from sealing properly. And I can wipe the outside rim as well to make sure there's no sauce on the side, and also the side of the jar. This can get messy, so that's why we have the wiping the rim step in the canning instructions. Okay, and then I want to make sure to use a fresh lid every time, so I get a good seal. You can't reuse these, unfortunately. Okay, then I'm just going to put my bands on, and I just want to tighten them about a quarter of a turn after they start to catch, or until they're finger tight but not too tight. I want to hold my lid on while they're in the water, but I don't want to over tighten it. Okay, now I'm going to open my giant steaming canning pot here. So I'm just going to turn that down while I put my jars in. And I'm going to use my jar lifter and just put my jars in here on the rack. So if you don't have a big canning pot like this, you can use a large pot. You just don't want to put them directly on the bottom because the jars could crack. So you need some sort of a rack or a barrier. And I want to make sure when I lower these down that the water level is at least 1 inch above the top of my jars, so they make a good seal. And I think these are well over 1 inch, so I should be good. So I'm just going to turn my heat back up, and I want to start the timer for 10 minutes after the water starts boiling again. And then after the timer goes off, I can take them out and they'll be all done. Okay, my jars have been boiling for 10 minutes, so I can take them out. And I'm going to use my lid lifter, and I just want to set them on a towel or a cooling rack. Okay, so I can hear my lids are starting to pop down. I just want to leave these here for 24 hours so they can make a really good seal. And I'm just going to come and check after 24 hours, make sure the middle of the lid is popped down. If it's not, if I can still like push it in and out, that means it's not sealed, and I can just stick it in the fridge and eat it right away. The sealed jars will last for 1.5 years unless you eat them before then. And then once you open it, you want to keep it in the refrigerator. So you can give these to family and friends. If you have extra, you can just use it for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, because basically we're just making cranberry jam. So you can enjoy it for Thanksgiving dinner. You can save some for Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. And yeah, so thanks for watching my video, and happy cranberry sauce making.